Hello and welcome to the channel. If you love books that change the way you think and work, then hit that subscribe button right now. Give this video a like to support the channel, and drop a comment below with your thoughts or book requests. Today, we are diving into the introduction of Deep Work by Cal Newport. This is not just another productivity book. This is about unlocking your brain's hidden superpower in a world that never stops buzzing, pinging, and refreshing. So grab a coffee, or take a walk while you listen. Let me tell you a story. Imagine you are standing in a peaceful Swiss village, by the edge of a lake. The only sound is wind through the trees, and maybe the soft crackle of a fireplace inside a stone house. This is where Carl Jung, the famous psychiatrist, built a retreat in the 1920s. Not to relax, but to think, to write, to go deep. This was his way of creating powerful work, away from the noise of city life and distractions. He called it the Tower. Every morning, he would rise early, eat a big breakfast, and then lock himself in his private study, where no one was allowed without permission. He would spend hours writing without interruption. This was his secret, not talent or genius alone, but time spent in complete concentration. Cal Newport uses this image to introduce us to the idea of deep work. He defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free focus that push your brain to its limit. This kind of work creates real value, sharpens your skills, and is extremely hard to replicate. In contrast, he introduces shallow work. These are tasks that do not require much brainpower. Things like emails, social media messages, and meetings. They make you feel busy, but they rarely move your work forward in a meaningful way. Now, here is the twist. In our current world, shallow work is everywhere. Most people spend more than 60% of their workweek responding to messages or searching online. But deep work, the stuff that really matters, is becoming rare, and that rarity makes it more valuable than ever. If you want to succeed in this economy, Newport says, you need to learn how to go deep and fast. He shares the story of Jason Ben, a financial consultant who realized his job could be replaced by a simple Excel macro. So he quit, locked himself in a room without a computer, and started teaching himself how to code, using just books and note cards. He trained himself to concentrate. He taught his brain to go deep. In just a few months, he landed a high-paying job as a developer at a tech startup. That is the power of deep work. It can transform your career, even your life. So why is this so important right now? Because we live in an economy where learning fast and producing great work are the keys to success. Technology changes fast, jobs evolve, and distractions are everywhere. Deep work helps you master hard skills quickly. It helps you produce better results in less time. And most people cannot do it anymore. If you are one of the few who can, you will stand out. You will thrive. Newport calls this the deep work hypothesis. It says the ability to focus deeply is becoming rare. At the same time, it is becoming more valuable. So the people who build their careers around deep work will win. In this book, he will show you how. He will explain the rules and habits that can help you train your brain like a muscle. But it all starts here, with a choice. Are you going to let the world pull your attention in 100 directions? Or are you going to learn how to focus? How to create value? How to build your own tower? Like Jung did? Maybe not out of stone, but out of time, out of intention, out of space in your life for the work that truly matters. That is what deep work is about. And that is what we will explore together as we continue this series. If you found this intro helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Part 1 is called The Idea. And it begins by showing us what the new economy actually rewards. Spoiler alert. It is not being good at email. It is not being the fastest responder on Slack. It is about producing high-quality results, fast and consistently. Cal Newport opens with an example from the 2012 US election. While most people were refreshing headlines from big news outlets, one blog was getting the majority of the traffic. It was run by a quiet data guy named Nate Silver. His models were so accurate that he became the new face of data journalism almost overnight. Then there is David Heinemeier Hansson, the programmer who created Ruby on Rails, a framework that powers sites like Twitter and Shopify, and John Doerr, the investor who helped fund Google, Amazon, and many other tech giants. These people come from different fields, but they share one thing. They all operate at the very top of their game, and they do that by focusing deeply on what matters. Newport then introduces the research of economists who explain that the job market is being split in two. On one side, we have jobs that are being automated or outsourced. On the other side, we have the winners, the high-skilled workers who can work with complex systems and learn fast, the superstars who are the best at what they do, and the owners who have capital and invest in tech. If you want to be in that winner group, you need two core abilities. The first is the ability to learn hard things quickly. The second is the ability to produce at an elite level, in terms of both speed and quality. And both of these depend on deep work. Newport calls this the deep work hypothesis. It says that the ability to focus without distraction is becoming rare and valuable. So, if you develop this skill and make it central to your career, you will thrive. Let us take a closer look at why. First, learning hard things fast. We often think talent is fixed, or that some people are just naturally smarter. But research by K. Anders Ericsson shows otherwise. He discovered what is called deliberate practice. This is focused effort on improving specific skills, with regular feedback and zero distractions. To get better at something, you must challenge your brain and stay in that focused state long enough to build new mental circuits. The brain strengthens the connections it uses most, so if you are always multitasking or working in a state of shallow attention, your ability to focus decays over time. But if you regularly push your brain into deep work, you train it to handle complexity and learn faster. That is how experts are made. Now, the second reason deep work matters is because it helps you produce at an elite level. Not just once, but repeatedly. Newport shares the story of Adam Grant, a professor at the Wharton School of Business. He published over 60 papers and a best-selling book before the age of 40. How? He works in long, focused sessions with zero distractions. He batches tasks. For example, he teaches all his courses in the fall so he can focus completely on research in the spring and summer. During writing days, he even sets an out-of-office email reply and disappears for hours at a time. He gets more done than most of his peers, not by working more hours, but by working with more intensity. Newport shares a formula. High-quality work equals time spent, multiplied by intensity of focus. So, 2 hours of deep, focused work is more productive than 8 hours of checking email and doing tasks half-heartedly. But most of us live in a world of attention residue. This means when we switch tasks, we leave behind traces of the last thing we were doing. It takes time for the brain to fully refocus. So, even quick checks, like glancing at email between tasks, reduce the quality of your work without you even realizing it. This is why multitasking kills productivity. Now, someone might ask, what about people like Jack Dorsey, who ran both Twitter and Square at the same time? Isn't he successful without deep work? Newport addresses this too. Yes, some high-level executives do well with constant interruptions, but their value comes from quick decision-making and their years of experience. They are not paid to focus deeply, but to steer large ships and respond to problems. Most of us are not Jack Dorsey. We are knowledge workers, programmers, writers, marketers, researchers, students. And in these roles, the ability to focus is your greatest asset. The truth is that deep work is not required for every job, but it is becoming crucial for more and more roles in a knowledge-driven economy. Yet companies are not promoting it. Instead, they design open offices, push instant messaging, and expect employees to be always available. That might feel productive on the surface, but in reality, it is a recipe for shallow thinking and burnout. Newport is not saying we should all retreat to a cabin in the woods, but we do need to rethink how we work. If you want to learn fast, create at a high level, and stand out in a noisy world, deep work is not optional. It is essential. So, to wrap up part 1, let us remember the big idea. The ability to perform deep work is becoming rare. At the same time, it is becoming more valuable. Those who master it will thrive. Those who ignore it will struggle to stay relevant. In the next section of the book, Newport will teach us how to actually train our minds and structure our lives to make deep work a habit. But for now, take a moment to reflect. Are you spending your time on shallow work? Or are you investing in your ability to go deep? Chapter 2 is titled Deep Work is Rare. We live in a time when deep work is more valuable than ever before. But strangely, it is not being encouraged by most workplaces. In fact, many of the most common trends in modern offices are doing the opposite. They are actively making deep work more difficult. Let us look at some examples. Facebook once unveiled its new headquarters, designed by the famous architect Frank Gehry. At the center of the design was the largest open office plan in the world. More than 3,000 employees would work in one massive space with movable desks and no walls. CEO Mark Zuckerberg said the goal was to increase openness and collaboration. When Jack Dorsey bought the old San Francisco Chronicle building for his company Square, he also designed it as a large open workspace. Employees worked at long shared tables. Dorsey said they believed in the power of serendipity and people teaching each other through casual encounters. At first, this sounds like a good idea. More collaboration means more creativity, right? But the science tells a different story. Studies show that open offices create constant distractions. Even the sound of a phone ringing nearby can ruin your focus. Your brain responds to these distractions even if you try to ignore them. Deep concentration becomes nearly impossible. Then there is instant messaging. Tools like Slack, Hall, and Microsoft Teams are now considered essential in many workplaces. They promise faster communication and better collaboration. But what they often create is a culture of constant interruption. In some companies, employees even configure their screens to flash when a new message comes in. They switch tasks instantly, typing quick replies and then trying to return to their original work. The problem is, our brains are not built for this kind of rapid switching. When you move from one task to another, your attention does not shift immediately. A residue of your focus stays stuck on the first task. This attention residue makes you less effective at the second task, and it takes time for your brain to catch up. So, even a short message can lower the quality of your work for several minutes. Another trend is the pressure to be active on social media. Even respected news organizations like the New York Times now encourage reporters to use Twitter to engage with readers. Journalists are expected to post, reply, and share throughout the day. This constant sharing may help promote the brand, but it also pulls attention away from real journalism, which requires deep thinking, research, and careful writing. Author George Packer put it well when he said Twitter is like crack for media addicts. It pulls you in and does not let go. All of this leads to a clear conclusion. Deep work is rare not because it is impossible, but because the modern workplace is not designed for it. In fact, it is often designed against it. Newport calls this the metric black hole. This is the idea that shallow work is easy to measure. You can count emails sent, messages replied to, and posts shared. But deep work is harder to quantify. There are no instant stats for creative breakthroughs or deep insights. As a result, managers often reward visible busyness over invisible depth. They see quick responses and constant activity as signs of productivity, even if those tasks are low value. There is also the principle of least resistance. People tend to do what is easiest in the moment. Checking email is easy. Browsing messages is easy. Deep thinking is not. So, unless a company is very intentional about encouraging deep work, shallow work will take over by default. Then there is the culture of connectivity. Many workers believe they must be available at all times. That if they are offline for even a few hours, they will miss something important or be seen as unproductive. But Newport argues this belief is often false. He shares a study from a Harvard Business School professor who worked with a team of consultants. They were convinced they had to be available to clients constantly. But when the professor forced them to disconnect at regular times, something surprising happened. Their performance improved, and clients did not even notice the difference. The truth is, most of us assume we need to be connected more than we actually do. And that assumption is hurting our ability to do meaningful work. Some people try to justify their constant communication by saying it helps others get things done. For example, a manager might say their job is to help their team by responding quickly to problems, but even here, Newport points out, there are better ways to work. Many software teams now use systems like Scrum. This method relies on short, focused meetings and clear project tracking instead of constant messages. It reduces interruptions and allows for deeper thinking. So what does all of this mean? It means that deep work is not just rare because it is hard. It is rare because most workplaces are not set up for it. The systems, tools, and cultures we have created prioritize shallow activity over deep focus. And unless you make a deliberate choice to push back against this trend, you will be pulled into the same shallow current as everyone else. That is why Newport spends so much time in this chapter showing how deep work is being forgotten. Because to bring it back into your life, you need to understand what you are up against. If deep work is important to you, you must treat it as a priority. You must protect it. You must fight for it. Because the modern world will not hand it to you. Chapter 3 is titled Deep Work is Meaningful. In the previous chapters, we looked at how deep work is both valuable and rare. Now, Cal Newport adds one more layer to the argument. Deep work is not just good for your productivity or your career. It is also deeply satisfying. It makes your life more meaningful. To explain why, Newport starts by referencing some powerful ideas from psychology and philosophy. One of the first thinkers he brings up is the science writer Winifred Gallagher. Gallagher developed a new theory of life and focus after being diagnosed with cancer. During her recovery, she realized that what you focus on determines your quality of life. If you focus on the positive, your life feels good. If you focus on the negative, your experience becomes dark. She believed that our brains construct our reality based on what we pay attention to. In her words, who you are, what you think, feel, and do, what you love, is the sum of what you focus on. This insight supports the idea that deep work, which requires intense focus, can lead to a richer, more meaningful life. When you are focused on something challenging and valuable, you are fully present. Your attention is not scattered. You are not worrying about other things. You are absorbed, and that absorption is deeply satisfying. Newport also points to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who introduced the concept of flow. Flow is a mental state where you are so involved in an activity that everything else fades away. Time slows down. You feel energized and in control. According to Csikszentmihalyi, flow happens when you are doing something difficult, but not impossible, something that stretches your skills to the limit. This is exactly what deep work does. It gives you the conditions to enter flow. And flow, as studies show, is one of the most fulfilling states a human can experience. Then Newport brings in some ideas from the philosopher Hubert Dreyfus and his collaborator Sean Dorrance Kelly. They argue that in our modern secular world, where traditional sources of meaning like religion are less central, people often feel lost, but meaning can still be found in mastery and craft. Their book, All Things Shining, explores how ancient and medieval cultures found meaning in their work. A craftsman who carefully shaped a piece of wood, or a poet who wrestled with language, was not just doing a job. They were connecting with something deeper, something almost sacred. In the modern world, deep work offers us that same kind of connection. When you give something your full attention, when you strive for excellence, you feel more alive, more rooted, more human. Newport is not saying that you need to quit your job and become a monk. He is saying that even in a regular job, deep work can transform your experience. A computer programmer who writes elegant code, a teacher who crafts the perfect lesson, a designer who builds something beautiful. These are not just tasks. They are opportunities for meaning. Of course, not every moment of deep work feels joyful. Sometimes it is frustrating. Sometimes it is boring. But it is in that struggle, that friction, that you find growth. And in that growth, you find purpose. Newport also reminds us that many people are afraid of depth. Not just in work, but in life. They keep busy. They fill their schedules. They avoid silence. They check their phones constantly. Because when you slow down and go deep, you are forced to confront yourself. But that is exactly where the good stuff lives. That is where ideas are born. That is where you find clarity. So this chapter is about more than just work. It is about choosing a way of life. A life of depth, instead of distraction. A life where you give your best attention to what matters most. Newport argues that this choice is available to everyone. You do not have to be a writer or a scientist to go deep. You can bring depth to whatever you do. The key is to train your focus, embrace difficulty, and commit to excellence. Chapter 4 is titled The Deep Work Hypothesis. This is the final chapter in part 1 of the book, and it pulls everything together into one powerful idea. Newport calls it the deep work hypothesis. And it goes like this. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare at exactly the same time it is becoming increasingly valuable in our economy. As a result, the few who cultivate this skill and make it the core of their working life will thrive. Let us unpack that. First, deep work is becoming rare. We have seen this in the previous chapters. Modern workplaces are full of distractions. Open offices, constant messaging, and social media have made uninterrupted concentration almost extinct. Most people cannot focus deeply even if they want to. They are too used to multitasking and reacting. Second, deep work is becoming more valuable. Our economy rewards people who can learn complex things quickly and produce high-level results. Whether you are a programmer, writer, marketer, or entrepreneur, your success depends on your ability to go deep and create work that stands out. So when a skill becomes both rare and valuable, what happens? It becomes a competitive advantage. That is the deep work hypothesis. And Newport is not just offering a theory. He believes this principle is strong enough to build a career on. He sees deep work as the foundation of a fulfilling and successful professional life. In this chapter, Newport also shares some of his personal story. He is a theoretical computer scientist, trained at MIT. He works in a field that requires deep focus, complex math, dense papers, abstract reasoning. There is no room for shallow thinking. He describes the environment he came from, a place filled with scholars who spent hours staring at whiteboards in silence. A professor down the hall from him had no social media, barely responded to email, and still managed to publish 16 academic papers in a single year. That was the culture. It was normal to be deeply focused. Newport embraced this lifestyle. He does not use Twitter or Facebook. He avoids unnecessary web browsing. He even postponed getting a smartphone until it became absolutely necessary. And the results speak for themselves. In the 10 years after college, he published 4 books, earned a PhD, wrote peer-reviewed academic papers, and became a tenured professor, all while rarely working past 6 p.m. How? He structured his day around deep work. He focused on the few things that mattered and batched the shallow tasks into short blocks of time. But deep work is not just about output. Newport says it has changed the way he lives. Because he protects his time. He is present with his family. He does not check email at night. He reads more books. He is comfortable being bored. And that peace of mind is just as important as productivity. This chapter is not about bragging. It is a demonstration that deep work is not a theory. It is a practice. And it works. Newport ends the chapter with a challenge. He wants us to build our own version of Carl Jung's stone tower. Maybe not a physical building in the woods, but a structure in our lives that protects depth. Because in a noisy, distracted world, those who can focus will have the advantage. They will do better work, build more meaningful careers, and live more intentional lives. That is the deep work hypothesis. And that wraps up part 1 of the book. Part 2 of Deep Work is titled The Rules. This is where the book shifts from theory to practice. Now that we understand why deep work is important, rare, and meaningful, Cal Newport gives us a set of 4 rules to help us bring deep work into our lives. He does not pretend it is easy. In a world full of distraction, deep work requires intention and effort. But with the right systems and habits, anyone can do it. Let us begin with Rule 1. Rule 1 is work deeply. At first glance, this might seem obvious. If deep work is valuable, of course we should try to do it. But as Newport explains, wanting to work deeply is not enough. You need strategies to make it happen. Because the world is full of forces that pull you away from focus. Some of those forces are external, like noisy environments, constant notifications, and interruptions. But many are internal: boredom, lack of discipline, mental fatigue, and even the temptation to check your phone during hard tasks. To fight back, you need a plan. Newport introduces 4 main philosophies for integrating deep work into your schedule. The first is the monastic philosophy. This is the most extreme version. It means eliminating or minimizing all sources of shallow work. People who follow this model withdraw almost completely from the noise of modern life to focus deeply on their craft. Think of Carl Jung in his tower. Or authors like Neil Stephenson, who avoid email and social media entirely. This model is not for everyone. It works best for people whose work demands deep concentration and who have the ability to control their schedules fully. The second model is the bimodal philosophy. This approach splits your time between deep work and everything else. For example, you might spend a few days or weeks in isolation doing focused work, and then return to a more normal schedule with meetings and shallow tasks. The key is that the periods of deep work are long and uninterrupted. A good example of this is Carl Jung again, who alternated between his clinical practice in Zurich and his isolated writing retreats in Bollingen. The third model is the rhythmic philosophy. This is a more consistent and accessible approach. You carve out the same time every day for deep work, building it into a daily routine. For example, a writer might work from 7 to 10 every morning. No matter what, over time, this becomes a habit, making it easier to enter a deep state without resistance. The fourth model is the journalistic philosophy. This one is more flexible, but also more difficult. You fit deep work into your day whenever you find time, the way a journalist might write an article between assignments. This model requires a lot of self-discipline and the ability to shift into deep mode quickly. Newport uses this approach himself. Since his academic schedule can change day to day, you do not have to follow one model forever. You can experiment and choose the one that fits your lifestyle and responsibilities. But whichever you choose, consistency is key. Next, Newport introduces the idea of rituals. If you want to get into deep work regularly, you need to build routines around it. Rituals help reduce friction and protect your attention. For example, decide in advance where you will work and for how long. Choose what tools you will use. Will you disconnect from the internet? Use a specific notebook? Light a candle or play instrumental music? These cues signal to your brain that it is time to go deep. Also, decide how you will support your focus. Maybe you need a glass of water nearby, or a snack ready to avoid interruptions. Maybe you want to set a timer or use noise-canceling headphones. The more structured your deep work sessions are, the easier it becomes to enter and stay in that focused state. Newport also talks about the importance of making grand gestures. Sometimes, the best way to get into deep work is to do something dramatic. J.K. Rowling famously checked into a luxury hotel to finish the final Harry Potter book. Others might book a cabin, cancel all meetings for a week, or publicly announce a writing deadline. These grand gestures send a powerful message to your brain. This matters. Focus. Another powerful tool is the concept of a work shutdown ritual. At the end of the day, instead of just walking away from your desk, take 5 to 10 minutes to close out loose ends. Review what you accomplished, update your to-do list, and plan your next steps. Then say a specific phrase to signal that the workday is done. Newport uses the phrase "shutdown complete." This ritual helps your brain let go of work and relax fully in your off hours. It builds trust in your system and reduces anxiety. Finally, Newport reminds us that deep work is hard. It requires effort and training. You will be tempted to quit. Your attention will wander. But that is okay. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to keep showing up, to build the habit, to create space for depth in a world that constantly pulls you toward the shallow. Deep work is like fitness for your mind. The more you practice, the stronger your focus becomes. And the stronger your focus, the better your life. That is Rule 1. Work deeply. Rule 2. Embrace boredom. The second rule for working deeply sounds simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Embrace boredom. Why? Because focus is a skill. And like any skill, it requires training. If your brain is constantly switching between tasks, checking apps, browsing tabs, and chasing little dopamine hits, it becomes wired for distraction. So, if you want to train your brain for deep work, you need to start by training it to tolerate boredom. Newport makes the point that most people today have completely lost this ability. The moment we feel even a hint of boredom, we reach for our phones. Waiting in line, riding the elevator, sitting at a red light. Instead of letting our minds wander or rest, we grab for stimulation. The problem is that this behavior rewires the brain. It teaches it that even the smallest moments of quiet need to be filled. So when you finally try to do deep work, something that requires long, uninterrupted concentration, your brain rebels. It has been trained to avoid focus. The solution is to reverse this training. To deliberately practice being bored, Newport suggests scheduling regular blocks of time to do deep work, and resisting the urge to give in to distraction during those blocks. But more importantly, you also need to resist distractions outside of those times. You cannot expect your brain to go from zero to focus instantly. You have to build it up. He offers a few specific strategies. First, take breaks from focus, not from distraction. Instead of saying, "I will take a break from work and check social media," reverse it. Schedule specific times when you are allowed to browse. And outside of those times, resist even if you are not doing anything else. Do not default to distraction. Let your brain be bored. Second, use the internet with intention. Newport recommends creating a rule for yourself. For example, only use the internet at certain times of day. Or, before you open a website, write down why you are opening it and what you expect to get. This forces you to think, instead of clicking on autopilot. Third, work like a monk with your attention. If you are doing deep work and you feel the urge to check something, do not let that urge pass. Sit with it, breathe, then return to your task. Each time you resist, you are strengthening your focus muscle. Newport also discusses the importance of productive meditation. This does not mean sitting on a cushion. It means taking a walk or doing something physical while holding a single professional problem in your mind. As you move, try to focus only on that problem. When your mind wanders, gently bring it back. This technique sharpens your ability to think deeply, even outside of work sessions. The bottom line is this: to go deep, you must train your brain to tolerate boredom. You must become comfortable doing nothing. Because the ability to focus is not something you switch on. It is something you grow over time. Rule 2 may not sound exciting, but in a world where everyone is addicted to noise, silence is your competitive edge. Rule 3. Quit social media. This rule is not about deleting every account and moving to the mountains. But Cal Newport is very clear about one thing. You need to take control of your tools, or they will take control of you. In the age of infinite apps and endless scrolling, we've been sold the idea that we must be connected to everything all the time. That being on social media is essential for networking, staying informed, or building a brand. But Newport pushes back hard. He says many people use these tools not because they are essential, but because they are easy and entertaining. And that comes at a cost. The cost is your attention. Instead of asking whether a tool has any benefit, Newport suggests a more powerful question. Does this tool offer enough value to justify the time and attention it consumes? He calls this the craftsman approach to tool selection. A craftsman chooses only tools that help him perform his work at the highest level. Not the newest, flashiest ones, just the right ones. To apply this to your life, start with your goals, both personal and professional. Then ask which tools specifically support those goals. If a tool is only offering minor convenience or vague entertainment, it is not worth your focus. Newport suggests trying a 30-day social media fast during that time. You step away completely. No Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter, no TikTok. At the end of the 30 days, ask yourself, did I miss it? Did it help or hurt my goals? Most people realize they gained more than they lost. You do not need to permanently delete every account, but you do need to be ruthless about your attention. Because every minute spent scrolling is a minute not spent creating, building, thinking, or living deeply. Social media companies profit from your time, but your success depends on your ability to focus. So make the trade wisely. Rule 4. Drain the shallows. The final rule is all about time. You only have so many hours in a day. If deep work is your priority, you need to make room for it. And that means reducing shallow work. Shallow work includes tasks like emails, meetings, admin work, reports, status updates, and other activities that are low value but often high visibility. Most people spend the majority of their time doing shallow work, not because it is important, but because it is urgent, visible, and easy to measure. But if you want to stand out, you need to reverse that ratio. Newport offers several strategies to drain the shallows from your schedule. The first is to schedule every minute of your day. That might sound intense, but the goal is not rigidity. It is clarity. By assigning time blocks to each activity, you become more aware of how your time is spent. If something urgent comes up, you adjust the blocks. But you are always working from a plan, not reacting. This is called time blocking, and it is one of the most effective productivity systems ever created. Second, say no more often. Many shallow tasks come from saying yes too quickly. Newport recommends being extremely selective about what you agree to, especially if the task does not support your deep work goals. A simple rule is this: if you cannot say yes with enthusiasm, say no with respect. Third, make shallow work visible. Newport suggests creating a budget for shallow work. For example, limit yourself to 30% of your work hours for shallow tasks. If someone asks for a meeting, check your shallow budget. If it is already full, delay or decline. When you treat time as your most valuable resource, others will begin to respect it too. Fourth, batch shallow tasks together. Instead of checking email all day, set aside 1 or 2 specific blocks of time for it. Instead of answering messages on demand, respond at designated intervals. This reduces attention residue and keeps your deep work sessions protected. Finally, be hard to reach. This does not mean being rude or unavailable. It means being intentional. Newport recommends writing better emails, ones that reduce back and forth. He also suggests using automated systems, templates, or filters to manage communication with less effort. You do not owe the world constant access to your attention. When you protect your time, you protect your potential. So, to review, drain the shallows, schedule your time, say no, batch tasks, and guard your focus like it matters. Because it does. We have reached the final part of Deep Work by Cal Newport. By now, we understand the core argument of the book. In a world full of distractions, the ability to focus deeply is becoming more rare and more valuable. Those who cultivate this ability will thrive, and those who do not will struggle to stay relevant. But Newport ends the book with a reminder. This is not just about career success. It is about living a life of meaning and intention. Let us briefly recap the 4 rules. Rule 1. Work deeply. Build rituals and routines to support deep work. Structure your day, protect your time, and train your mind to focus. Use strategies like time blocking, batching, and even grand gestures to signal to yourself that focus matters. Rule 2. Embrace boredom. Do not run from boredom. Use it to train your brain. Resist the urge to check your phone. Practice being still. Take time to think. Deep work begins with the ability to sit quietly with your thoughts. Rule 3. Quit social media. Use tools intentionally, not impulsively. Ask yourself whether each app or platform truly helps you achieve your goals. If it does not, step away. Reclaim your attention. Rule 4. Drain the shallows. Reduce the time you spend on low-value tasks. Say no more often. Schedule your day with care. Batch similar activities. And be hard to reach, so you can focus on what truly matters. Throughout the book, Newport encourages us to see deep work as a philosophy, not just a technique. It is a mindset that says your time is precious, your attention is powerful, and your best work requires depth. He shares stories of thinkers, scientists, artists, and entrepreneurs who have achieved incredible things, not through chaos and hustle, but through structure, discipline, and deep focus. But deep work does not happen by accident. It must be designed into your life. It must be protected. In a world that rewards shallow responses and constant activity, choosing depth is radical, but it is also freeing. Because when you focus, you feel progress. When you go deep, you grow. And when you master this ability, you unlock the kind of work and life that most people only dream about. So the challenge is simple. Do not just read about deep work. Live it. Start with one habit, 1 hour, one block of time. Build the muscle. Train your focus. Redesign your day around what matters most. Your mind is capable of incredible things, but only if you give it the space to think. Thank you so much for listening to this full summary of Deep Work by Cal Newport. If you found value in it, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new book breakdown. And I would love to hear from you. What book should we cover next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, stay curious.